want to see the kind of industries that are opening up.
This is Local Biz Now with Joe Vagnone, where your business matters. Local Biz Now.
You have to determine what is working, what isn't working.
Joe Vagnone is a respected business broker, helping individuals buy and sell businesses. Joe has successfully owned and operated many companies in a variety of industries. This is Local Biz Now. Biz Now, because your business matters.
Yeah. You are listening to the #1 live talk business show in North Carolina, coming to you from Burner Cigar Studio, home of the finest premium cigars and cigar smokers in the world. Great people, premium cigars. Life is good at Burner Cigars. Go on by there. They're in Brookdale Village, and they're also in on Highway 16 in Denver. We hope to inspire, inform, and entertain you, because that's what we do here at News Talk WSIC 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, 1400 AM. I am Joe Vagnone. This is Local Biz Now, where your business matters. And every month, as you know, I have a different co-host, and this month is my friend, whether he will admit it or not, Chuck Cooper. He's the president and founder of Whitewater Consulting. Chuck, my friend, thank you for being here, buddy.
It is great to be back.
So, Chuck, I wanted to do something a little bit different before we start the show. We cannot ignore everything that's going on in the world. It is probably one of the most challenging times for small business people to sort of discern what tomorrow will look like, right? You know, I mean, forget what your politics are. One thing's for sure, the choices and decisions that you have to make are the most challenging today in the 40 years I've been in business. Matter of fact, if anybody tells you they know, it's not possible.
No, not even. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And right now, today, we don't know what's going to happen an hour from now.
Right. And so that uncertainty is challenging. And I thought about it. Okay, so, because I help people buy and sell small businesses, right? So, and what's happening in my world is buyers are slowing down.
Yes.
They're not saying no. They're just saying, I don't know. Right? Or if I'm going to do this, let me check a few more things that otherwise I might not check. Right? That's what I'm feeling. I don't know where it's coming from your end or not.
And what's been interesting, Joe, over the last several months, I've noticed that with talking with business owners, when it comes time to make decisions, they're just saying, not now. I'm just going to sit and watch and wait. And so whether it's people related or whether it's buying or selling businesses, they're just kind of on hold. And I really thought as we got to, in last year's, we got to the election and we had clarity around that we would come back and things would pick up. But there's just always been that unease about things right now.
Well, it's funny because my business thrives and I monitor it based on consumer confidence and business confidence. And the minute Trump was elected, consumer confidence and business confidence shot up to like an 18-year high, right? For about, it was like a sugar high for maybe 2 months, right? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then it immediately dropped. What tariffs? What? You're doing what? You what? And so that discomfort created this spike and then quick decline for consumer confidence and business confidence. And what that is measuring for me, buyers and sellers. Right. And so I just wanted to touch base on that because from my position and my experience over the years, it's the perfect time to buy. And it is the most risky time to buy, right? So you can't advise somebody buy a business, right? Matter of fact, I tell people this often. It is really easy for me to tell you, don't do it. I got about a 70% chance of being right if I say don't do it, because 70% of the people that go in business for themselves fail. Now, that's just a fact, right?
Those are the facts.
Now, as I say that, I'm going to tell you this. There are 34 million small business owners in the United States, right? I mean, you get that, right?
I do, and that number that comes directly from the Small Business Administration.
It does. It absolutely does. And so when your advisor says don't do it, I'm thinking you should listen to them. And the advisor doesn't have to be that bright. I got a 70% chance of being correct. But it's when you're ready to take that calculated risk that there is, and in my world and in my experience, substantial benefit. If you can find the comfort, there really is this great moment. It's this great opportunity. I don't say it as a broker because I need business, right? I say it, I've just been here before. This is the moment that a true entrepreneur comes out ahead. They're willing to oversee, overlook, or sort of take the calculated risk of what tomorrow may look like, and now is that perfect storm to be able to do that. I don't know how you think about that, but over the years, and I've been telling this to people for years, I have bought and sold, owned and operated more small businesses than anybody you're going to meet. I love making the statement. It's a big, bold statement. And with Shark Tank and Profit TV, I'm sure there's people out there that have bought and sold more than me. But my number's about 389. Okay, so when you get there, you know what I mean, then I'll be happy to bow to you, right? But the point that I'm making is most of my successes came, and most of the small business people I know, they start these businesses at the worst god-awful time. I mean, we know people that started businesses during COVID.
Recessions. I mean,
That's right.
that is when we see the biggest influx of new business starts. It's when we are in a really difficult situation environment.
Sometimes it's out of necessity, and they figure, well, heck, I got nothing to lose because I don't have a job anyways. I get that, right? But there is real success because what you do is you get a clear chance to see where the market is and where the void is when these weaknesses start to happen. I bring that up. I didn't know what your thought is on this because I just sense it. I sense like as uncomfortable as we all are, and we are, right? It is a perfect time if you are a person that likes calculated risk.
That's the key. The key is calculated. You have to be able to know and understand what that risk is and be willing to accept that. The ones that are successful and that have the greatest success are the ones that step out in this moment and say, I'm going to become a business owner.
And most of us, Chuck, we didn't do it because we thought we were brilliant and we knew something more than somebody else. It's our lifestyle. We're going to do this, right? I've always wanted to do this. I'm going to do this. And I got a feeling we're going to see a huge move the next 12 to 18 months in the direction of small business. I'll be surprised if I'm wrong.
No, I think you'll
remind me if I'm wrong.
Well, I will absolutely do that. I think you're also going to see a lot of businesses that are going to be for sale in the next 12 to 18 months.
Yes, no doubt about it. Because even us guys that have been in our businesses for a long time, this is wearing on us. This is taxing on us. I mean, if you've been doing this for a long time, I mean, you're used to knowing your industry, and now you wake up and realize you don't know. You don't even know who your supplier is going to be tomorrow. I mean, it is a really challenging time.
And then you put the people on top of that, and you're like, I'm done. I'm out.
Oh, gosh. Which is exactly what we're going to do when we get back. You are listening to Local Biz Now. I am Joe Vagnone. If it is Monday afternoon, your business matters. We'll be right back.
I was taking notes.
He's an old hat at this. He's
I've been there a few times. Professionals.
No, definitely not. You can watch me figure out what not to do.
He almost had to do show himself last week.
Yeah, last week Joe calls and says, we may have to cancel the show today. There was a bad wreck and nobody could get here. He goes, where are you? I said, I'm in the parking lot. We're doing the show, and he goes, you may have to kick it off. And I'm like, that's not.
That TV does look crooked, or is it just the way
That's more than what I bargained for.
That's just that angle.
Is it? Okay.
You made it on time.
He made it like 2 minutes before showtime.
I mean, it ain't like it's bad or nothing, but.
You'll see it switch.
Right.
And you'll see why I put
Yeah, because this shot, we don't care, I mean, it's it looks completely different. I got you. Okay. So, Georgia, we got, Chuck and I are going to talk for another segment. We're going to go to break. We come back, then
Sounds
it'll
good.
be you. By then, you'll be comfortable. You'll know exactly how to make fun of Chuck. There'll be no problem.
About a minute and a half.
Julie wanted me to remind you that she said it was crooked too.
I do remember that.
I want to remind her you told her she was wrong, don't know what she's talking about, and that she ought to mind her own business.
No.
She ought to mind her own business.
I said nothing of the sort. One minute.
Okay. Chuck,
Yes, sir.
keep an eye on the monitor.
Yeah,
Just how much time you got?
last week,
Joe's not giving you 1 cent more. You get that, don't you?
I'll get the
After
bell.
this segment, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have you
Trade.
two flip seats. That is the hot seat.
Oh, that's
You're
the
gonna
hot
be in the hot
seat.
seat. Yeah, so just be prepared for that.
We
Your
call
time
it-
is coming.
All right.
We call it the hot seat because we have learned over the years that this entire radio show, live on the radio, live on the book and the tubes and the X and the podcast and all that, is all for one thing: to find a short, right, that's got that logo in the background. So that's why
When
we
it's
call it the
live,
hot
anything
seat.
goes, right?
We doing all this for a short.
10 seconds.
And I like to make fun of Chuck. I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand.
5.
Nobody likes Joe. He got no friends.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You are listening to the #1 live talk business show in North Carolina, coming to you from Burner Cigar Studio. We hope to inspire, inform, and entertain you, because that's what we do. I am Joe Vagnone, and this is Local Biz Now, where your business matters. And my co-host for the entire month is Chuck Cooper. He is the president and founder of Whitewater Consulting. Chuck, we really didn't define what Whitewater Consulting is for those that don't remember. You want to do that first before we dig into the Google article?
I can absolutely do that. So Whitewater Consulting is a company I started about 6 years ago. We focus on serving small and mid-sized businesses throughout the Carolinas and across the U.S., helping them specifically in the area of human resources. So everything that's people related, we have the capability of having an impact on and helping organizations navigate the journey of being an employer.
And you and I connected because I read a book that you had sent me, because you're a persistent little fella.
I am. That's what my clients tell me.
That's right. I like that. I tell my clients, my persistence might really bother you right now, but you're going to love it when it's working for you.
Sure, exactly.
Believe me, after the third email that you had sent me, I was like, okay, I like this guy. But you sent me a book.
I did send you my copy.
I didn't even have to pay for it.
Nope. I sent you two copies of the book, one of each one. Yeah, Unprecedented was the first book, and then the second book was The Family Business Blueprint.
And they're just exceptional books, and it's full of detail. It's just not Chuck, blathering about what he thinks. It's what Chuck found through his research with small business, and they're just exceptional books.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so now you're supposed to go to the Google and pull something. We're supposed to talk about it, but I know you and your big egghead. You are the Google. I know that about you, right? Every now and then we run into smart people, and Chuck's one of those guys.
You're talking about Georgia now.
That's right. Well, Julie finds the smart ones, you understand. And so your title of your article here is Why Small and Mid-Sized Businesses Should Elevate a PEO in 2025. Now, before we get into all this, hey, Chuck, what's PEO?
PEO, Joe, it's a professional employer organization. And what that is if you take, there are several companies, there's actually 400 plus PEOs in the U.S. today. And what they do is they work with small and mid-sized businesses, and they ultimately become an outsourced HR solution for businesses.
Not just doing like I used to do with ADP, right? This is much more than that, correct?
When you look at the companies that are in the space, there are a lot of companies like ADP, they have a PEO division. So they are going to be providing obviously payroll and the benefits. They take on, through the relationship, they take on a lot of the liability as it relates to being an employer.
Right.
But then there are other companies in the same space. They still take on that liability, but they are simply, their focus really is being a payroll, workers' comp, and benefits provider for small business. And they're they're an offsite HR department, so they're on an as-needed basis.
And I think I told you this years ago. I did a lot of coaching with about 10, 15 different small business owners. And I thought they wanted to hear about my masterful marketing skills, and operational skill. The number one thing they continue to have problems with and ask about in this group was HR.
It is.
And so to bring somebody on board makes a lot of sense.
Well, it's one of those things you have to evaluate. Do I want to bring somebody on and put them on my payroll and have them in-house, or do I want to be able to use them more as a fractional service on the outside? And that's
I think I have to use a fractional because I wouldn't even know how to hire. Like I wouldn't even know where to get started. Forget whether I can afford a full-time person. I wouldn't even know what I'm looking for. And I want the skill of all the areas that this third-party company would have.
That's exactly what you're looking for. And
exactly.
So when I look at how HR is evolving, it used to be a transaction focused department. And so everything was all about paperwork and process. Today, because people have played such an important role in their business, in the success of that business, that whole department is now becoming much more strategic. So they need a seat at the table with the leadership to be able to have a say as to how the organization is actually going to implement their vision.
Okay, so we've got 5 points you want to talk. If we're going to get to them, let's get on it.
Okay, so two things I want to mention before I go into these points, Joe. This last week, I've had two conversations with business owners. One of these business owners had an issue as it relates to I-9s. So what they were looking at and what we were able to uncover for them, we found out that some of the documentation that they had been given by their employees was not actually valid documentation.
No.
So there's...
You kidding me? You mean they all had the same Social Security numbers as Bobby?
So that was just, you think about as an employer, all you're doing, you're taking that information, you're not verifying that. And so there's liability that comes along with that. Right. Second business owner that I was talking to had their accounting person or their finance person handling not just finances, they were also the HR director, they were also the IT director. The relationship with that person went sour. And so they were trying to separate. That person has the banking information, they have usernames, they have passwords. There's a lot of liability that goes with that. So,
and those are three completely different skills.
Yes.
Okay,
and so
I'm with you.
That brings me to the reason I wanted to talk about, again, outsourcing the HR was because it prevents some of those issues from happening, and it also helps mitigate that liability.
Okay, so and this really is sort of a new phase that we as small business people would not have thought of 10, 15 years ago. This is something that I encourage a lot more now than I used to.
Sure, and when you're talking to business owners like you are, Joe, a lot of them are looking to sell within the next 1 to 3 years. To me, if you can outsource your HR to a PEO like this for a 1 to 3 year time period, you can implement a lot of best practices and really shore up your people side of the business.
That's a really good idea.
And builds a lot of value.
That's a really good idea. I didn't give that much thought.
But one of the main reasons, if you go back 20 years ago, before I got into the industry, the main reason small business owners wanted to align themselves with a PEO was simply because they wanted to control healthcare costs.
Right.
And so that's kind of gone away, but because there's so much complexity in the world today as how we work, where we work, that again, this is where the compliance piece comes in, and that's where PEOs are able to bring a lot of value. I'm not saying either that everybody needs to go to a PEO.
Right.
I'm saying as a business owner today, if you want to be able to make good strategic decisions, you need to at least benchmark your own internal processes.
And honestly, if you'll just write one check a month and worry about that one check a month, they will solve 5 or 6 of your issues and save you 7 or 8 hours a week worth of time and energy and effort that you've been spending on this. And most of my clients hate this stuff.
Absolutely.
They did not start a business to manage people. They really did not.
They did not. And so when you can write that one check and let them deal with all those issues, you can stay focused on actually the growth and the management of your business.
I got you. Okay. You got me. I didn't know it was called PEO.
PEO, Professional Employer Organization.
Okay. And you're saying even these really large companies now have this. I didn't know that. I thought it was had to be sort of boutique because they get so ingrained in your business.
So a lot of times, again, going back to the history of this, it was really a lot of startups were actually using PEOs to get started. I have 2 companies I can think of over the years that started with me with 7 to 10 employees. They are now multi-billion-dollar companies. Not that we had a major impact on their growth, but we were able to help them build a foundation from which they could grow. And so I think we're starting to see companies today. I've got companies that are 300, 400 employees that are using PEOs.
Interesting.
The challenge becomes, as a business owner, how do you decide what PEO is a right fit for you when you've got 400 to choose from?
Because I gotta only assume that once I pick one, it'd be really hard to make a switch.
How you go about making that switch? It's hard to unplug from one,
right?
And then the second thing is how you go about making the decision for which PEO is right. Which one has got industry experience that will fit me the best?
Right.
Which one has the right type of services that am I going to use the most? I see a lot of times business owners get into these relationships where they bought it based on the relationship and the personality of the salesperson rather than on the services they were going to use.
And that's where you come in, right?
That's where we can come in and we bring an objective viewpoint to the evaluation and help the business owners look at this and determine which one is the right fit for them. Our job is not to come along and try to sell a PEO.
Right.
A company or even the model, but our focus is coming along, making sure you as a business owner, you have the data and the information you need to make the right decision for your company.
And nowadays, I got to tell you something. I find these small business people, they just want somebody to bounce ideas off on. They've got a problem employee. They want somebody to be able to talk to that has experience with this. And if you're not careful, it's going to be your wife or your mother-in-law or your best friend who owns another business. And most of that advice is bad, Chuck. I'll tell you what I would do. I wouldn't let them treat you like. Next thing you know, he's running the whole operation by himself. So you really do need professional advice in this area.
It's just one of those things where having multiple resources to draw from, because the laws continue to change in every state. So as your business continues to grow and you expand, you need to have additional resources that understand what's happening in South Carolina versus North Carolina.
I'll show you how old I've been. I started years ago before you had to put that poster up, for all the labor employees. And I could remember I think I was on my 3rd restaurant at the time, and I could remember somebody came in and they said, "Where's your poster? What poster are you talking about? What are you talking?" They made the biggest deal out of that darn poster, Chuck. I had no idea I needed that poster up on the wall. And I laughed about it. But I'm telling you, it was easy. They literally could have locked the door of my restaurant without that stupid poster. And those types of things you need to know. And if you're busy running your business, how would you even know to look at that stuff?
You don't. And that's the thing. I continue to find business owners that I talk to every week they're so focused on starting their business, making sure they've got the cash flow, making sure that they're making sales, that they don't have the time to really learn and understand the compliance side from the HR piece. And that's where these other companies can be such a great value to them. The other piece I'll mention real quickly is technology. Technology continues to evolve.
Right.
We need to have technology to support our people.
And we're getting ready to talk to a person who's going to help us with the security on that. Your business matters. We'll be right back. Okay, Chuck, you missed that by about 15 seconds. But that's okay, because we're going to be able to pick up on it, because that's where she's at, so we're good.
All right. The big switch.
The big switch.
You can use this table here.
Well, isn't that in your shop?
No, it actually won't be.
Oh.
I'll double check just to make sure, but I haven't.
No. Okay, thank you. We're good?
Okay.
Yep, that's good.
Georgia, right about now, it's too late. You can't leave.
Uh-oh. I missed my window.
That's it.
The escape hatch has closed.
Turn the air on.
Well, we got 30 seconds. Get some air in here.
This is the longer break, so we still have about 3.5 minutes.
Oh, we can lounge
Getting a little
this
hot,
time.
Joe.
I just turned it off. I understand it's
You
hot.
starting to feel it, Chuck? It's just starting to
I
get.
understand. If you guys want to come stand over here for a second in front of the air, it feels good.
That seat's probably a little hotter than it normally should be.
Literally the hot seat. Right?
I think these lights are producing more heat than that air conditioner produces cold. You comfortable, Joe?
Standing here.
All right.
Where's your office?
So I actually worked remotely
Okay.
from home, and then I do hot desks
Oh,
at
really?
some of the remote locations, the co-working spaces. Because typically I go to my clients.
Georgia, it is okay to disagree with me.
Okay.
You do not have to agree with me. Matter of fact, the owner of the station calls that good radio. Just because you hear me say something don't mean you have to agree with it.
Not a problem.
If you want to argue with me, feel free to argue. It's
you're
fair
right, I'll
game.
agree.
Take the conversation
If
wherever
you're
you want
right,
to
I'll
go.
agree.
I'm good. Yeah.
And don't worry, I'm not Wolf Blitzer. So if you don't want to talk about something, just say that's a great question. But you know what? I'd rather talk about it and take it another.
Hit 'em up over.
I'm not gonna pound you.
How could you ask me that? Yeah.
That's irrelevant.
I could be Wolf Blitzer. It's possible. As long as I don't have to spell anything, read anything.
No teleprompter for you?
No.
Don't have a problem with the name this time. Right? I said you won't have any problems with the name this time.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Right. Can you imagine me doing
An
that?
easy one.
All right. You see me go like this, that just
Wrap it
means
up.
wrap up the thought. You know. She got it.
She got it. I didn't, but she got it. Jim's like,
Took Chuck 6 months to get that.
Peek
So
every
it's
now and
about 20 seconds.
yeah, I think that's probably a good number.
20 seconds. Yeah, that way Joe can then wrap
Wrap
the
it up
segment
and-
real quick.
Don't do it in 5 like I did.
It's all right. It happens.
I need about 10 to 12 seconds to do my thing. That's what I need.
All right.
Chuck only gave me 6 seconds.
Oh, gosh.
That's all right.
I'll have this down perfect next week because next week's my last one. So
It'll be the best one.
Won't be the first time JoJo cut me off.
1 minute. 1 minute. That means the air goes off in a minute.
Oh.
Thirty seconds. Ten seconds. 5.
Yeah, you are listening to the #1 live talk business show in North Carolina, coming to you from Burner Cigar Studio. We hope to inspire, inform, and entertain you, because that's what we do here at News Talk WSIC 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, 1400 AM. I am Joe Vagnone. This is Local Biz Now. I have my co-host with me, Chuck Cooper, president and founder of Whitewater Consulting. Chuck, my friend, thank you for being here, buddy. I appreciate it.
great to be back.
You were rubbing up against talking about cybersecurity, and isn't it ironical that Julie has placed us with Georgia Forbes? She is the founder of Directed Revolutions Consulting. Georgia P. Forbes. P is for Purdy, Exceptional and dynamic. Thank you so much for being here.
It is a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate you knowing in advance that we're going to pick on you. You could just tell that was coming, couldn't you?
I did. There's always one. There's always one.
There's always one Joe in the group, Chuck. That's what she's saying. So, Georgia, tell us what Directed Revolutions Consulting is all about.
Directed Revolutions is, as the name says, right? It's about change, impactful change, which is part of what came through when I named it, right? We want it to be purposeful and working with organizations who have found some level of success and don't know how to get to their next level. And, you know, the workspace, the business space, it's dynamic, it's constantly evolving. And as a business owner, sometimes that's a little overwhelming and you know how to maintain and how to operate, but there's not often time to figure out, well, how do I grow? How do I expand? How do I offer more services? How do I get new clients? And that's what we do. We come in and we partner with them. We hear the vision. We collaborate. We create a plan. We create some milestones and we'll stay and do implementation, right? So we want to be a partner, not just come in, drop it down and walk away, but your success is our success.
So I'm still not clear on exactly what a good buyer or client profile looks like.
Sure.
Who would that be?
There are 4 main pillars of services that we offer. One is strategic planning, which is, you know, big picture thinking, how to get there. We do cybersecurity and risk management. So lots of businesses are still using technology, think they don't need it, but little known fact, small and mid-sized businesses get attacked more than the larger corporations because they're easier targets. So even if you're small, you still need it. And it doesn't mean you have to do all the bells and whistles. You find the protections that work for you, for your space. And the biggest one you can do is with your employees because they are usually, unintentionally, the largest source of your breaches, right? We also provide
In my
AI.
case, that'd be me. What's this? I'm going to click on that.
Clicking on these links, right?
Stop clicking on stuff.
Stop clicking.
If you don't know, don't do it.
That's it. Very simple. We also do AI optimization. Another myth, it's not just for large corporations. Some of us are already using it and don't even realize it. You're on social media, you're using AI.
So that's the one I want to start with.
Sure.
Because I don't know what it is. Like, it sounds interesting. It's intriguing. I order from the Bojangles, and I'm talking to the Terminator. So, and the Terminator does a better job than Betsy was doing at taking my order, right?
The Terminator may even remind you of what you ordered last time and ask you if you wanted or recommend some things in line with your last order now that it knows your preferences.
Wow. So how do I know how to apply this in my world, right?
Right. So let's make it a little bit simpler and more accessible, right? Because we hear AI, artificial intelligence, it feels really big and scary. But at the root and the core of it, it's using technology to make your business run better. So it may be automation. So if you have some repeatable, simple tasks that you're doing, you know what? I send out a newsletter every single month and I have this mailing list. You can use a tool to automate that for you. So AI is around how do you simplify some of your processes? Data.
Oh, I'm telling you right now, Julie's already getting ready. I can tell right now, she's made a note. I guarantee she's going to be calling you on that because we do that, and I hear her complain about that newsletter every month.
If there's something you're doing that's like repetitive, because what you want is something you can set rules for and guidelines on how to do. If it's repetitive, you want to free up your people to do the things with their expertise that you've hired them for. So you've got something that's repetitive. They're doing it every week, every day, every month, whatever the frequency is. You can now set a schedule, put things in place, and now you've probably freed up a lot of their time to do something else.
I thought that was only for Microsoft and Google. I wasn't allowed to get involved in that yet.
So what you will be providing, you don't have to create the automation yourself in a lot of instances. There are lots of tools and platforms that make that automation available for you depending on what you do. So for example, you mentioned the newsletter. Lots of people use like Canva as a tool for designing because, again, you don't have a graphic designer. This is an easy way to do that.
Right.
Canva, underneath it all, has AI underneath it. So there are things that you can utilize their AI tools for within Canva.
So these third parties are using the AI and carrying that load, and I just simply pay for
Correct.
the service
So,
itself.
I
and
think
you would help me choose these companies to be able to do whatever
it is. So
Right.
whatever it is that you're doing, there are multiple solutions. At the root of it, the details of the AI, how it learns and gets its information, not important for you. There's only...
Listen, I tell people I never knew how the phone worked, and I used it every day. I don't care.
You don't need to know.
I really don't need to know.
There's only a few providers because that's a costly expenditure. It takes a lot. But they're taking all of that data they've collected. They've taught the machine how to learn, and it's learning as it gets more data. Now, certainly you understand the trade-off of using the tool is that you're giving your data. You are contributing to that tool now learning and being smarter as well. But if you have privacy concerns, don't use it unless you have a proprietary version of that AI. So you always want to balance those concepts of how private is this information? Do I care if it's in a database where someone else is, that this machine is using this to get smarter? And for simple things, you probably don't. And it's okay to put it there.
So what about confidentiality agreements that I have with clients, right? If I'm using the Terminator, have I now violated that because the Terminator is taking that information?
If you get a version of the Terminator that's just for you, only uses your servers, only uses your computers. That means it's not.
Now we just spent some money.
Now you just spent some money. So that's usually for bigger companies, right? But if you are, I would say if you want a solution for a client, you don't put your client's name in there. You can say subject A, right? You can, like you would black line certain documents.
Right.
You could use the same thing with the AI that you're using. So you're not violating your confidentiality or any of your client's privacy to get the work done.
Interesting. Okay. Now let's talk about cybersecurity a little bit because, and Chuck was talking about that. It's becoming a big deal with HR, big time, right?
It really is, and that's something we continue to see. Although very, very small organizations being impacted by this. Help me understand where is that line? Is there a company that's too small where cybersecurity is not an issue?
No, because of the
Chuck,
world.
No, Chuck, just no.
Because of the world we live in now, all businesses are using some form of technology, regardless of what their core service is. And if you are using technology and you are connected to the internet, like you're not in a completely closed network, you are accessible, right? You can be hacked. You can be breached.
What are some, other than clicking on the links, what are some other areas where we can be exposed as a business owner?
Okay, Georgia, because Chuck just doesn't know this radio thing live, we're going to answer that when we come back, okay?
Sounds good.
I love picking on Chuck. Georgia P. Forbes. P stands for Purdy. We'll be right back.
I am on a roll.
Just had to ask her
Question at the 20-second
a
mark.
17-minute answer, and you gave her 17 seconds to do it.
Well, Joe dominated the whole conversation right up to this point.
You did say it was the hot seat, right?
Oh, he's blaming me now for that. Okay. All right. Okay, he's blaming me because he asked a 17-minute question in 17 seconds. She was going to try and answer.
I bet she was.
I saw. She looked up at it. She's like, I hope he stopped asking so I got time to answer it.
No.
No. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get another no.
No.
I'm sorry, Georgia. What we are 12-year amateurs.
I love it. I love it.
We'll get it. We'll get it.
When Chuck gets us going over.
All right.
So, Joe, we got the July 4th coming up here in a week or 10 days. So I thought I would bring Georgia a couple of words, basically a couple of sayings that we can incorporate into a song. Because one of the last times I was up here, there was a guest we had. I was singing the 12 Days of Christmas with him.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's pretty awesome.
no, it wasn't.
Oh, I loved it. It was great. He was a trooper. He did it.
I did it.
He did it.
12 Days of Christmas.
Jojo, did he have a Santa hat on too? I don't remember that.
think he did.
Okay.
I don't think I did.
Okay.
Got to complete the
I thought
look.
Joe was actually going to participate. Joe's
No.
like, here, no way.
No.
Did not.
I'm not singing.
Just left you out
That's
there.
not happening.
You're a
Left
trooper.
me hanging.
You're a
Yeah.
trooper.
That's not happening.
All right.
Nope.
30 seconds.
Nobody knows my sorrows. We ready, Jojo?
25. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
You said 30 seconds 10 seconds ago.
3, 2, 1.
You are listening to the #1 live talk business show in North Carolina. I am Joe Vagno, and this is Local Biz Now, where your business matters. I'm here with my friend, whether he will admit it or not, Chuck Cooper, the founder of Whitewater Consulting, and I'm also here with a spectacular woman, Georgia P. Forbes. The P stands for Purdy Dynamic. That's what it is. She has a business called Directed Revolutions Consulting. Georgia, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So my poorly skilled co-host asked you a great question, but he only gave you 17 seconds to answer it at the last break. So if my poor assistant would like to try and ask that question one more time, we'll give her a little bit more time to answer that.
I apologize.
You got some time now.
Okay.
Do you even remember your question?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So other than clicking on links, what are some other areas where a small business owner can be exposed when it comes to cybersecurity?
So, passwords. So, password security. You know, people tend to do very simple password as password or
Password.
their date of birth, like really easy things. And
She just figured out my password.
see, that easy.
She's a genius. She's a
But
genius.
even just giving some standards to your staff on setting strong passwords, right? And a little trick I usually do, they'll say like, maybe about 10 to 12 characters. I create a phrase and then you just convert that to either the first letter or a number, and you've got a pretty secure password that you can easily remember.
That's what I need to do.
And
She's
then
a genius, I tell you, genius.
that way, so password is another way that people, and I do it sometimes too, but you can't get people out of it using the same password across everything. That's
Right.
just sort of human nature, right? It's easy. Who wants to remember 20 passwords?
I can't remember that.
Well, now they've got password keepers for you. So you don't have to remember, right? They're encrypted, they're secure. Typically, if you forget your main password to get in there, everything is lost because they don't store it. So you can have a password keeper, essentially.
See,
to
I was
store.
afraid to use those because I was afraid someone's going to hack in there, get all my passwords, and then get my $17.15 from the bank.
No, no one is imperceptible to being hacked, right? They can be, but they're usually very encrypted because even the owners of those systems can't see your password. They'll tell you your password basically is primary. So even if you lose that, they can't recover it for you and you can't get back in. You'd basically have to start over. So keep that password. But password is also a really easy area to get people to comply.
Okay, so Georgia.
Yes.
Georgia P. Forbes. I like that.
Me
Purdy.
too.
Dynamic, extraordinary. How in the world did you, strategic consulting, business transformation, cybersecurity, and dealing with the Terminator. Chuck, is it just me or that's pretty impressive stuff?
Very impressive. And she does it all by herself.
So Georgia, how we get here?
How did we get here?
I mean, you don't have to go back to 1962, but kind of give me an idea how Georgia got here.
You know, I did have a little bit of a non-traditional career path where I was afforded the opportunity to really explore my passions and found roles that helped me to nurture that, right? So I went to school, I got my bachelor's in finance. Most of the roles that were being offered to me at the time was to be a trader, which I started off knowing what I didn't want, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted. I took a year and I freelanced, which gave me an opportunity to work with other financial organizations, see different role, and really figure out what I wanted. Now, in this time, I loved technology as well, even though my degree was in business, right? So all my free time was used figuring that out. And I found roles that allowed me to merge the two of them, which wasn't very common at the time. So I was able to grow in both of those areas and, you know, took my financial knowledge, which helped me develop business acumen, took my love of technology, developed my technical acumen. And that also created a niche for me where I now became almost this translator, right? So if you work in the space, business people, tech people do not speak the same language.
You just described what was going through my head. You help people like me translate these issues and problems in a way that I get it, like I can understand it. You know, like in Chuck's case, you say no. That could have been a 30-minute conversation, but you broke it down to no.
No. Simple, right?
So
Simple.
Did you do all this independently, or were you working for different large corporations?
I worked for large corporations for over 20 years. Got into very senior leadership roles as well in the tenure of my career. And then I got to a place where I wanted to take my skill sets and apply them in a space where I could see more direct correlation between my contribution and what was happening. You know, when you're in a large company, you don't always see the direct connection of your contributions with the end results because there are so many moving pieces. And growing up, I was surrounded in a community of smaller businesses that were successful to the depths of their community's reach. And not because they didn't offer a good product or service, but because they did not have access to the resources to get them to that next level.
It's interesting that you say that. And Chuck, you probably get this, what I'm getting ready to say is she has this ability to connect with this large business view to this small business need. And that is rare.
It's huge. It really is. It's huge because most people don't have that. They have one or the other.
One or the other. And that's what's unique about what I bring to the table, right? So I have that corporate lens and viewpoint to take and apply into a smaller space and help you understand how do I get where I want to go and how do I apply it?
And you help small businesses think bigger.
Think bigger. Yes, which gets hard, right, when you're a smaller business because you're wearing so many hats, you can often land in tunnel vision. And whatever the vision was when you started, you've lost sight of that because it's just heads down.
Okay, you got me curious.
All right.
I want to know a little bit about your childhood.
Okay.
Where did you grow up? Like, I'm curious. Kind of give me, how does this extraordinary woman get to this point, right?
So I'm from Jamaica originally, the island. That's where I was born.
I've had a lot of Jamaican friends, and they tell me there's more Jamaicans living in the United States than living on the island of Jamaica.
That's about true. And I think a large majority of them are in New York as well.
Okay, I didn't know it was New York. Okay.
So my parents migrated to the U.S. when I was younger. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. You know, big city, lots happening, but there's also a microcosm, like a Caribbean community that's there. So there was always that strong connection. Education was a really big factor for my family, so always encouraged
you thank
about
mom and
school.
daddy for that.
Absolutely. And then there was just sort of, you know, to be successful, whichever path it is that you choose, it's always, you know, go out there, do your best, be successful in whatever way that looks like.
So mommy and daddy, they're self-employed, they work for corporations?
Both of my parents were working class. My mom, actually, when she migrated here, she first worked for Burger King. And then she moved into working at a bank, and further on, she became an accountant.
How do they feel about you now being this self-employed person if they're corporate-minded people?
They were not corporate minded at all.
They were stuck in it. They didn't want to be there. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
And my dad was actually a blue collar worker, so he was a construction worker, worked with his hands. For my parents, I want to say post college, I think they were very nervous for me. I didn't follow sort of the same path they would have expected.
Oh, you ain't common. There's no question here, Chuck. She's very unique. There's no question about that.
You know, they're like, you're smart. You've got your degree. What is it that you're doing? What's happening? And I'm like,
baby, we paid all this money. Now what you going to do with it?
yeah, and I'm like, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I know there's something there. So, you know, it took a lot of courage for me to go this path. And certainly along the way, I'm questioning if I've done the right thing.
Right.
Even in moving
that will never
from,
end. You understand? I mean, that question will always. Yeah.
It won't. After, 20 plus years in corporate and being successful and stable, and then I left and started this new consulting business, this journey, right? Which I've been doing for about 8 years now. But certainly that first step, that leap of faith, kind of has everybody looking at you like, are you crazy? What are you doing?
Oh, no. You got Chuck and I with you.
We're right there with you.
We're with you. You got two fans right here. There's no question about it. Let's talk a little bit about, what do you see that the client's biggest challenge seems to be that are coming to you? What does that look like?
I think a lot of them are overwhelmed. Right, they're doing so much.
That's a good description of how.
They're doing so much, and I know you spoke about outsourcing the HR before, which a lot of companies wouldn't have looked at, but the level of expertise that you need for doing those things, trying to have it in-house, some small businesses try and do it themselves, right? And it's sort of like, you don't have to do everything yourself just because you run and own the business. So really getting out of that mindset of, I have to do it all, or I can't afford anything else, because there are options, there are solutions. It's just a lot of times we think very traditionally about how they are, and the world is very different. There's just so much more available to us. Even like accounting, you can use a free platform, right? Until you get large enough that you got to pay for the services. So there are always options, and it's really helping them understand, how do you focus on the core of your business and what you're doing there and get that to grow? What do you really need? And then what are the things that, you can outsource? It doesn't require your expertise, right? It requires someone else, and it's probably cheaper for you to outsource than trying to do this in-house. So helping them kind of separate and get out of the noise and being able to focus, and then being able to move from there.
Okay, I'm gonna do it, Chuck. You've only got 40 seconds. One small thing that could be a big impact for a small business person. Can you give them a quick advice?
If they can spare 1 hour, take that hour, evaluate how you are spending your time on average. Look for the thing where the return is less than the time spent. Take one thing, because I'm sure it'll be multiple. Take one thing off of that list and make yourself a 30-day plan. Change comes in small incremental steps, not in a big bang.
Love it. Absolutely.
She's like brilliant, isn't she?
She is brilliant.
Thank you.
And then revisit that month by month.
Revisit it. Set yourself a target and keep going. And over time, you'll see that you've made a change.
Georgia P. Forbes. Give her a contact. Thank you very much. Your business matters. See you next week.
Great job.
Oh, thank you. That was great.
Georgia, that was great.